Testing the audio. I'm testing it for the stream. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go and get started. All right, I've got a script, so I apologize if I'm not looking up to you guys. Good evening. My name is Toby Sopp, and I'm the Supervisor of Elections for the 2025 Student Government Election Cycle. On behalf of the SGA Elections Commission, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the SGA Treasurer Candidate Debate tonight. The debate tonight will allow students to hear for themselves the values and platform each candidate brings to the table. I will now also take the time to remind everyone of the Elections magazine, that's outside, that was created in conjunction with the Avion with official biographies and campaign statements for each candidate. There is additionally an online version of this at erau.edu/sga-vote. The entirety of this debate will be streamed, recorded, and uploaded online for your viewing later. At this time, we request that you silence your devices and give your undivided attention to the student leaders that want to represent you. Please allow me to take a moment to explain the structure of tonight's debate. First, we will begin with candidate introductions. Each candidate will be allowed 90 seconds to introduce themselves. For each question asked tonight, I will inform the candidate of 10 remaining seconds and again when the time has elapsed. After each candidate has introduced themselves, we will move directly into the question portion of this debate. On Instagram, we asked students what questions you had for all of the candidates, and we have selected 4 of those questions to ask tonight. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the stated question. After each candidate has answered the question, we will move to an open discussion and debate amongst the candidates to ask questions to each other in regard to the previous question, which will last for 5 minutes. This process will be repeated for all 4 questions. After the 4 questions have been completed, we will move to a general debate period for 15 minutes, where the candidates will have the opportunity to question or to comment on previously made responses tonight. Following the general debate and discussion, we will move to an open questionnaire for the audience to ask specific or all candidates a question. The candidates will then have an opportunity to present a closing statement to conclude tonight's debate. Finally, I would like to invite you all to the elections kickoff event next Monday, March 31st on the Quad. This will be an opportunity to go and speak with each candidate and have a discussion or ask questions of them. It is requested that you hold your applause until the conclusion of tonight's debate. If there are no questions from any candidates or the audience, we will begin with candidate introductions. Once again, each candidate will be allowed 90 seconds to introduce themselves. We'll begin with candidate 1 and progress accordingly. Let me just make sure my clicker works. Awesome. Candidate 1, please go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marcus Lopez. I'm 20 years old. I was born in New York, but I grew up in Connecticut. I am a second semester junior in aerospace engineering, and I'm also a current member of the Student Treasury Board for the SGA. So I'm definitely familiar with the inner workings of the SGA here on campus, and I know how processes go and stuff like that. On top of that, I'm excited to be running for the treasurer this year, and I feel that I can put my experiences to great use in this position. And I appreciate all of you that showed up today, and I hope that I can educate you all on the policies and procedures that I want to put in place for the next election cycle. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Candidate 2.
Hi, my name is Joseph Miller. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I am a sophomore studying UAS in the College of Aviation, minoring in Business Administration in the College of Business. I'm currently treasurer of a student organization here on campus, but I'm a part of multiple different student organizations here, so that allows me to have a unique perspective of how different organizations getting small amount of funding versus large amount of funding goes, and I think that will help me in my time if I'm elected treasurer. I very much enjoy reading bylaws and stuff like that, so I am not currently familiar with all the inner workings of the SGA, but I plan to get up to speed very quickly if I am elected.
Awesome. We will move into question 1 then. Candidate 2, since candidate 1 got to introduce themselves first, you will be able to answer your question first. You have 90 seconds to answer this question. Let me go to that slide too. If elected as SGA treasurer, what would your immediate priorities be for the SGA?
My immediate priorities for the SGA would be to bring back a shuttle to Bellamy. That shuttle was recently revoked in favor of getting onshore another shuttle in the newly opening 1060. I feel that that was a promise made to students when they signed their leases at Bellamy, that they would have a shuttle to and from their place of residence provided by the SGA, and I feel like we can find the money to expand the system and bring that service back to those students.
Candidate 2, when you're ready.
Right. So my immediate priorities, currently on the board, we're working on an SGA audit. So we are going through and working on the division's budgets, making sure that all their inventory is in the right places, making sure their money's well spent, their attendances are up to date on everything. So I want to make sure that I'm continuing that, making sure that all of our money is being put to well use out there for the division specifically, because they are the more prioritized organizations on campus. They have larger budgets. On top of that, I will touch on what Joseph said with the shuttle programs. I do want to expand the shuttle programs. I believe that there should be more shuttles in working right now. I think that's definitely something that the school needs, and it's helpful for people to get to and from school. And then I also just want to expand on division budgets. Going back to the audit part, I want to make sure that the division budgets are being spent properly and benefiting the student body as a whole. I know that that's been an issue in the past with some clubs on campus. Some people don't believe that their money's being spent well, and some of their money's going to pointless things. So I want to make sure that all that money is being spent well. Thank you.
Thank you both. Moving on to question 2. Candidate 1, you'll answer first. Here's your question. What will you do for RSOs to help improve their financial well-being and ensure they are equally represented?
Right. So I'm a huge fan of the tier system as it is right now. I believe that it gives all the clubs an equal opportunity to move up and get more funding as they move through the tiers themselves. So starting in tier 7 and then moving up, I believe that that is a good method of keeping checks and balances between clubs and making sure that they're spending their money in the allotted amount of time that they have. And once they're at that cap, they get to move up and they get more money out of that. So I'm a big fan of that, as well as CapEx and other programs like that. I think they all provide an equal representation for the clubs.
Are you candidate 2?
I am also a fan of the current tier system and how it operates for clubs that are not on probation and allowing them to be able to spend the money and how they choose. And I definitely think it is an equitable system so far. What I would look at right now is the probation system. To my understanding how it is, the clubs are not informed about any investigation or allowed to make a case or statement of probation until it has already been decided, and I think that is something that could change to help improve financial well-being in different RSOs.
Thank you both. And I made a mistake on the last question. I didn't give you your opportunity for 5 minutes of debate. I'm going to give you that 5 minutes now. If either of you had a question about question 1, I'm going to go back to that one. There's your 5 minutes.
I don't have much. Not on that one. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Marcus. I'm hearing a lot about the auditing system. Do you currently think part of the system that you're part of right now is not doing a great job with the auditing, or is this just more of well-being? Because that was a big focus on that.
I'm a little confused by the phrasing. Are you saying, do I think the system is flawed, so that's why we're auditing?
Do you think it's flawed currently and it needs to be better well-regulated, or is it being well-regulated right now?
The auditing process?
Yeah.
Well, this is the first time we're conducting an audit, so we're definitely building it as, for lack of better terms, building the plane as we fly it. We haven't really conducted an audit before, but I'd say so far we're doing pretty well. We've gone through 2 of the divisions so far, I believe, and we got pretty good numbers from all of them, and we're working with those to make sure that their money is being well spent. And yeah.
Thank you. Going back to question 2, and to remind you what it is, what will you do for RSOs to help improve their financial well-being and ensure they are equally represented? 5 minutes starts now. Nothing? Amazing. Moving on to question 3. Over the past year, students have mentioned jumping tiers within the RSO bracket system. Is this something that you will promote as an SGA treasurer? Why or why not? Candidate 2.
As the jumping tier systems, there are definitely requirements that need to be filled out for each promotion of tiers. I think a promotion system, if a club would like to jump multiple tiers at once, that they have to meet a tier above where they're trying to do if they are trying to jump multiple tiers at a time. But I do like the system how it is currently with the 1-tier promotion, but I'm open to the jumping tier systems as long as they're able to prove they need that.
Candidate 1.
Yeah, so tier jumping is definitely a conversation that we've had currently on the Treasury Board. It's more complicated than you would think to let a club from tier 7, say, jump to tier 3. That's a huge price jump there. It's a lot of money that you give to a club that you only gave $750 to one semester, and then the next year giving them close to $8,000. You're putting a lot of trust in that club, and that's what I think the tier system is good at right now, is putting trust into clubs by giving them the smallest amount of money the first semester, and then if they spend that money for 2 consecutive semesters, they can request a promotion. And that's another thing that we have worked on improving, is making it easier for clubs to promote, so we could combat clubs wanting to tier jump. This way you can just promote rather than jump 2-3 tiers at a time. I just feel like it's more of a trust thing, and you don't want to put that much money out at once to a club that hasn't spent that kind of money before.
Thank you. And your 5 minutes to debate this question begins now.
Is the trust not being built when you have them approve the budget packets and stuff like that, being able to approve what they're going to spend that money on? Because it's not like they're going from 750 to 8,000 and then they're like, we want full reimbursement, but you had no idea what they were spending it on. Is that not the trust system of getting everything approved?
Yeah, but at the same time, if there's a brand new club on campus, I don't know if I'm a fan of giving them a large, I mean, we're talking about $1,000 of money to a brand new club. And if you guys don't know, like, I've seen new clubs that are formed typically only have 5 to 10 members to start off. So are we really going to let a club that has 10 members get $10,000 right off the bat? Like, we don't know what your club really stands for and what they do yet. So that's where the trust comes in, is I need to see what this club is doing, what's their goals, what is their mission, how do they want to manage these funds, what are they spending it on, how are they benefiting the student body, and then we can talk about giving them more money, and that comes with the tier system.
You said brand new clubs on the campus and that you're worried about what they're representing and how they're going to spend that money. There's requirements to be in each tier. If they can meet those requirements of, like, the members, how much money they have in their bank account and all that stuff, is that not, if they can raise, because you have to have at least 50% of what you're requesting in a bank account, would it not make sense that they have some level of credibility, and then also we're approving the items that they get to buy?
So you're saying a brand new club would have 50,000, like 50% of whatever they're asking for? Like,
is that not a requirement, right?
It is a requirement, but I find it hard to believe that a brand new club would have anywhere close to thousands of dollars in their bank account right from starting off, unless they really got at that fundraising and got some external funding. But
I think that executes my point, that they wouldn't need to, you wouldn't have to worry about them tier jumping if they can't meet the eligibility to be in that tier.
Right, but it's just tier jumping as a whole causes a lot of issues within the tier system. Just based on, like, a financial side, the current RSO budget couldn't withstand clubs jumping around that much. It's there for a reason. It's put in there and structured so not only do the clubs get equally represented, but the Treasury Board's budget, the RSO budget, is equally split amongst all the clubs.
So is the issue that we don't have enough money to allocate to them, or that we don't trust them?
No, we do have enough money as it is right now. As the tier system stands right now, we are currently following the budget and all within the confines of what we do. It's more of a trust thing and making sure that these clubs are spending that much money.
All right, that concludes that debate. Moving to question 4, candidate 1, you're going to have this question first.
Yep.
As SGA treasurer, you not only work with RSOs on campus, but you also work with SGA divisions such as Touch and Go Productions, the Wicked 1025, and the Avion. What plans do you have to make sure that they are just as equally represented as RSOs on campus?
Yeah, so I would say right now, the divisions are probably slightly overly represented. I wouldn't say like too much, but they do get a lot of money and they use a lot of the funds that are given to us, or a lot of it goes to divisions. So that's why we're conducting, like I mentioned earlier, the audit on them. We're making sure that they're using their money to benefit the overall student body better. Is there much more that I need to do to make them feel represented? I don't think so. I think I should be working with the divisions to make sure that the rest of the student body is equally represented.
Candidate 2.
I would say definitely, I do think they are well represented. You can't go a day on campus without seeing one of these divisions and one of their events. I do think that it is always good to work with them, especially as they are getting so much money, to make sure that they are feeling properly taken care of and the money that they need to spend to make all the students' experience here on campus better. But I do feel like we do see them a lot on campus, and they're really good at getting their names out there and working for all the students.
Thank you. 5-minute debate for this question begins now. All
I
right.
had to think, sorry.
At this point, we will transition to the general discussion and debate. During this segment, 15 minutes will be allotted for the candidates to discuss and debate amongst themselves based on their responses to anything said this evening or to bring up any new topics they would like to ask the other candidates. 15 minutes begins now.
I'm going to go ahead and start off. I wanted to go back to question 1. I left something out. It was about what are my immediate priorities when I come into the office. So one of the plans that I had that I thought about over the last few weeks is a financial literacy course. From my experience with clubs on campus, and it's not the treasurer's fault at all, but a lot of times do I see treasurers being thrown into the position not really knowing what they're doing, how to manage money, stuff like that. I would love to set up monthly, bi-monthly courses, kind of, like maybe an hour session where I teach treasurers how to manage their money. How should they be budgeting? What should they be doing to make sure their club succeeds? Stuff like that, stuff along those lines. That's one of the bigger things that I want to bring to help. This is more targeted towards the lower tier RSOs that struggle a lot more, but yeah.
So that was a quick 15 minutes. Alrighty, at this time, we're going to transition into the audience Q&A portion of this event. During this segment, audience members will be allowed to ask questions. We ask that you raise your hand and a microphone will be brought to you. Please indicate if your question is for all candidates or for a specific candidate to answer. Gabe is going to come around with his microphone. And also, please state your name before you ask the question.
Hello, my name is Amara Blanton. I'm currently one of 2 co-ed senators. This is for both candidates. Currently, with the tier system, Tier 1 RSOs have to complete and present to the Senate for an RSO impact report. That is put in place so the Senate can properly assess if RSOs are impacting the on-campus community appropriately and using the funds allocated to them appropriately to benefit students. I was made aware, actually I already knew, that Tier 1 RSOs don't actually have to efficiently pass the RSO impact report to maintain their status in that tier. If you could just give your personal opinion on those requirements, and additionally, what requirements you would like to put onto Tier 1 RSOs, if any, to maintain their status on how they impact the community. Thank you.
Yeah, so in regards to the Senate Impact Report, I think the idea of the Senate Impact Report is a great thing. It's a way to essentially analyze and audit the tier ones to make sure they're doing what they're doing, make sure they're doing enough for the school because they are getting the most money. Do I think they shouldn't be penalized for passing it? I think they should be. I think that should be grounds for probation or, if anything, like a teardrop, because that is definitely a serious offense. You should be passing the Senate Impact Report. It's their requirement.
Tier 1 organizations definitely do get a lot of money, and it definitely is concerning that they don't have to pass the Senate report, and I definitely think that should be something to, if I am elected, that they would not get their money for the semester if they don't pass it, because that is how it works for all the other requirements for RSOs and all their requirements that they are to do. And if they don't pass it, they can go through the same appeal process as everyone else, but definitely needs to be a requirement for them to pass.
So you said they shouldn't be allowed to get any of their money?
If they fail one of the requirements,
So,
unless they can appeal, unless the appeal goes through.
okay, just to clarify, you said if a tier 1 organization fails the Senate RSO impact report, they would, the following semester, not be allotted any money.
Unless they can appeal.
Okay.
Unless their appeal goes through.
Thank you.
Hi there. One of the questions that I had was, what was the new initiatives that you enjoyed that Treasury has implemented for this year? And what new initiatives would you want to implement for next year? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tashom. So I'm a huge fan of the professional development fund that we put in this semester, this year. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's the professional development fund. That's what we use to let clubs on campus go to any conferences that they may want and stuff like that along those lines. So I would definitely keep that going, and I definitely want to find, I can't give you a specific right now, but I do want to open another kind of budget that RSOs can use to get additional funds on top of CAPEX, professional development, and they're just standard allocations.
As not on the inside on this, I don't know truly what everything has been implemented or what's going on the inside, but I, as a club that has used the professional development fund, it was a good system. It was nice, easy to fill out, apply for, and get approved. Definitely, that's something that should be kept around. I think that instead of creating new programs to give clubs money, to just allow tier money increases in the tiers, so raise how much they can request at each tier.
So you want to widen the tier gaps?
Well, you wouldn't necessarily be widened. I mean, they'd be widened, but they would all be going up.
Okay. It would then result in clubs being in a tier longer than they would have been prior, right?
Well, the promotion system is if they can meet the requirements. If they should be able to spend the money, then they wouldn't lengthen anything.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Timothy, and I have a question for both candidates. So there's been an alarming amount of fiscal irresponsibility between both SGA sections and RSOs. What do y'all plan to do to keep building trust and fiscal responsibility of RSOs and SGA sections like Touch and Go going forward?
Thank you, Timothy. Yeah, you're not wrong at all. Definitely a lot of financial illiteracy going on within the school as a whole. That's why I brought up the idea of having financial literacy courses throughout the semesters that I would head and make sure that RSOs specifically were able to make sure they know how to budget, where to put their money, and how to make sure they don't go bankrupt, essentially. But in terms of divisions, I'm going to bring it up again. The division audit is definitely a good thing for SGA right now, and it'll make sure that the divisions are spending all their money, and if we see any discrepancies there, the board will definitely make sure to take care of that and find out where all this money's going. And moving forward, if elected, I would definitely be looking into putting the hammer down on some of these divisions. If they're not spending, if they are irresponsibly spending their money, it's probation, it's percentage cuts in their budgets, because we're not going to take that from a club that's taking up tens of thousands of dollars.
Definitely the fiscal irresponsibility has been seen throughout. I would be coming in as a fresh perspective without any biases of what has already been known, and I can look at the numbers to make sure that all the money is being spent properly. Definitely audit's a good thing, but I think it's been going on for too long that it's going to take a while, and I definitely think a fresh perspective, somebody who's not been in the SJ, is the best to look at it.
I have a question for candidate 2. So based on what you said earlier, you said if a RSO fails the Senate impact report, a tier 1 should receive no funding. Can you elaborate on why? What's your reasoning behind that?
It's a requirement that they have accepted to be a tier 1 organization. We expect all the other student organizations to complete all the tiers. If not, they either don't receive funding that semester or semesters going forward. I don't see why they shouldn't be treated any differently.
On the bracket, it's I haven't looked at the bracket in a while, but last time I had seen it, it said, let's say an organization in tier 5 was not required to meet all of the obligations. They have to meet a percentage. So why is, for a tier 1 organization, I believe it's 80 or 90%, if you absolutely force them to complete a Senate impact report, is that not fundamentally making it a 100% obligation to complete every tier, or every obligation?
It would be, but they are getting the most amount of money, so holding them to the highest standards is definitely something that needs to happen, especially with distrust going on with some of the organizations in tier 1.
Would you do me a favor and hand that mic to the next person, please? Gabe ran away for a second from me.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, just really quick. Sorry, I'm hung up on this one. So tier 1s receiving no funding following semester is just going against a lot of the guidelines and bylaws that are currently in place within the Student Treasury Board. If a club doesn't meet their standards, regardless of their tier, if they don't meet their tier requirements for that semester, they are placed on probation. If they fail to meet their requirements the following semester, they are then dropped a tier. I believe that there is a better way than not letting a tier 1 receive funding, and I think I think we could tweak the requirements a little to be a little more intense on the tier 1s, but not to the point where they receive 0 funding. I think that's, no offense, not a good idea. There are a few clubs on campus that currently have like contracts, and they have people that they pay semesterly or yearly, and giving them the money would effectively make them breach every one of those contracts, and that's just a huge rabbit hole that I don't think it's worth going down. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sam. So this is going to be a question for both candidates, but this is going off of what candidate 1, Marcus, you said earlier with the courses on like financial responsibility for different RSOs. I know that executive positions, SGA positions obviously take up a lot of time as they have a lot of responsibilities. How are you going to manage the balance between responsibilities you already have and promises you make to the student body going forward? And with that, how are you going to manage the transparency with students on what you can and can't do realistically?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I have a good balance as is, currently being on the Treasury Board. I feel that I haven't missed a meeting. I'm secretary, so I kind of have to be there, take attendance, and write the minutes. So in terms of my time management, I'm not too worried about that. It bumps my office hours up a little, but I definitely have the free time for that. I have a job, but I might have to cut back on my hours. Not the end of the world. But yeah, I'm not too worried about time management. Is that what you were asking? Was it more of like a time management question for myself?
I mean, for both of you, but
Yeah.
that, but also if something comes up that you can't follow through fully on what you said you would, how would you balance the transparency with students on like what you can and can't do?
Totally. Well, when it comes to being treasurer, you kind of have a board to fall back on. When you can't do something, I would trust my members, the elected officials below me, to follow through with whatever plans I have put in place. I would never take something on solely on my own because I know I have a group of 6 people behind me that can uphold those actions with me.
I feel my time management is pretty good. Being a student, being part of different orgs, if something was not able to be completed, there's obviously